What's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is episode 58 of An Untold Narrative. And this week's guest is unlike anybody else. I'm super excited. We've had a few photographers on in the past, and David Rivera is no different, who has an incredible journey just from the brief interactions on Instagram that I've had or have seen over the past couple of years. David, how are you? Where are you? How are you doing?
What's up, David? Nice to talk to you. Thanks for having me on. I'm in LA right now. It's 9 a.m. just on a nice Sunday. Kind of just enjoying my weekend. Really, just got back from the desert for the last few days. So just kind of, just getting back in rhythm into the city.
I love it. And we were just chatting right offline before we started this, that this is your first official podcast recording. So I'm even more jazzed up to have you.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard my voice in a recording for a long period of time.
So you're like super behind the scenes. I actually think you're wildly underrated as a photographer. You've experienced, so we're going to get into, like, you've traveled the globe, you've worked with amazing artists, you obviously work for an amazing brand, which we're going to cover the entire scope of. And that's really the purpose of this podcast, is really just to highlight and share creative stories who don't necessarily have a blue check mark, but are really working on their craft every single day. And I think you fit that bill like any of the other 55, 56 guests that we've had so far. So I appreciate you being here. Do you introduce yourself as a photographer? Or how do you introduce yourself if you're sitting on a plane next to somebody?
No, this is my name, David Rivera, and then if it naturally comes, the conversation goes in rhythm, then we can talk about photography or we can talk about design.
Okay.
It's just kind of how it is. Like, oh, David, nice to meet you. And they, oh, nice to meet you too. And then they, oh, so what do you do? And if they ask me, like, oh, I design and I shoot. Like, I'll just say both, But I would say my real job, I love both things equally. I've been blessed to be able to do both my entire life since I was a young kid, since I was in high school. And it's just something that I love. I don't know. I love doing. It's fun. It's fun. Yeah.
So I thought you only did photography. So this is even news to me. I'm stoked to learn this. So you focus both on the design aspects and in terms of graphic design, kind of product design, and then photography, or how do you break it down?
Man, all right. So to give you a little bit of background, I also my main 9 to 5, my full-time job is I do special projects at the Hundreds. So I pretty much run all collaborations for the brand, from apparel to marketing. So I think that I've been in with the brand 10 years now, going on 11 years. Thank you. I was 19 when I started. Yeah, yeah. So I was 19 when I started with the brand, but I started actually as a photographer with the brand. So it's funny how it all kind of just always meshed in. I started as an intern for the e-com team, just doing lifestyle flats. Shout out to Switch, like he kind of brought me on board. And then I worked with him for a little, just shooting just lifestyle flats of product. All I shoot was product. So I got to know the product. I was a fan of the brand. I perfected the lighting. And then eventually I jumped into visual communications, which is more of overseeing the creative from anything you see on the outside from a consumer perspective, like Twitter, Instagram, billboards, ads. I would kind of oversee. And eventually that led me into design, while I still continued to shoot on weekends and on the side, because that's kind of what got me into this career. So I never let it go. I was just always helping out friends and always wanted to shoot new things.
So do you have, going back to your early days, do you have a formal education in photography or design, or because you started so young?
I do not. YouTube University, Google.
Let's go.
I did try school out, though. I admit it. I went to school for graphic design for about a year at Art Institute.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just realized I chose my career instead. I sat down with the guys and I spoke out my options, and I moved forward with that, really.
That's amazing. Good for you. So when you were younger, like in high school and stuff, were you shooting at a super young age, or how did you get into the creative mindset? Are your parents creative, or how did you stumble into this?
Man, I would say since I was like 9, to be honest.
Wow.
I was really into music videos. I was really into movies. I was really into hip hop and like even rock, even all kind of music that you would come across on MTV, right? I'm like 10 years old, soaking the early 2000s in. Like I am trying to be like Pharrell. I am trying to see Nirvana. I know like this is like he passed away, but like I'm seeing all the like the music that he's still putting out. You know, just like I'm just learning new things. The clothing started at first. I would say that. I always cared about clothes. Always. That was my thing as a kid. I would not want toys. I would not want, like, I played sports, but I wanted clothing. The clothing came from the music videos. Music videos came from the way it was shot. So when I'm like 9 and 10 years old, I cared about clothing so much that I wanted to start showing it off. So I started grabbing like a digital camera and I started taking photos of myself and the way I would dress. Eventually, my stepdad gave me a film camera when I was like 15, 16. He was like, yo, I used to use this when I was a kid. Shoot all your friends. I promise you, in 20 years from now, you won't regret it.
Wow.
And I'm just like, interesting. Okay. And I kind of like laughed at him at first. It's a film camera. I'm just like, I don't know what to do with this. And I would go to my local like CVS or something and buy like the Fujifilm boxes, you know, just like, and just roll it up and just start practicing and messing around. And I have photos of friends in high school still that I no longer talk to or I still see around. I'm like, yo, look at this. We were 15. And just, you know, and that's kind of how it just continued. And I would always shoot all my friends around. They had clothing companies, they had brands, they wanted to do music, they wanted to act, and I was just the kid to shoot around.
So,
And
so 14, 15 years later, have you reflected on those photos? It sounds like you'll still go back into your archive and look at them.
every once in a while, yeah, it's not like every day, but every few months. I know last year I did like a big cleanup in the house with all my old film negatives and just reorganizing everything. And you realize how much you've shot and how much you've seen,
Yeah.
and it gets deep and it gets really like, oh wow, like this person's no longer here, or like, oh wow, like this person has grown into the complete opposite of what you see in this photo, you know. Like I think that's kind of what I like capturing.
That's amazing. So what is that your core photography still your favorite like thing to do creatively, or do you just find peace with balancing it between design, artistic creation and direction and then also photography?
I think I've taught myself to have a good balance. That's kind of what I do. My balance, I mean, honestly, just as much as I shoot, I design and work way more. Like, I think I'm like a 75-25, more design aspect for the hundreds, and my shoot career is more of like, you know, I'm available to you after work or on weekends because I am lucky enough to have that schedule where I am not, I don't know, just not working. Like I'm enjoying it at my own rhythm, my own beat. Like I'm not forcing myself to, yo, I gotta shoot 3 times this week. I need to make some bread. Like I am blessed enough to be able to like have my own, and people are okay with working with me like on that, you know. Like, so I think that's kind of why it's worked so good for me because there's no sense of pressure. I don't know. I sound kind of crazy for saying that, but like it's just I think I've found my balance, and that's kind of how I want to do it. And I'm
So
very sure. Yeah.
I usually ask this question at the end of the episode if we get there, but like, are you happy just like in general right now?
Yeah. It's like me seeing this balance. Me, like I said, I just found this balance maybe 2 years ago, to be honest. Like everything has been changing in my career with the brand and in my design aspect that it's put me in a position to really enjoy everything else. My hobbies, my passions, my figuring out how I want to shoot the next thing. What do I want to get into? Like, I don't know. I've never had this sense of like, I guess I feel privileged a little, if I want to say, for lack of thereof, like the word I'm using, but it's giving me freedom of what I want to do and shoot and like how I want to put artwork out and stuff. I don't have any pressures on me.
Man, that is amazing to hear. That's so rare. Like, so I think all of us are trying to find that moment of balance and peace and like, you know, that flexibility. Was there like a moment or like progress that you had to go through in order to like find that? Like, I'm assuming it hasn't always been rainbows and butterflies for you.
No, it hasn't for sure. I think it's just like for a while I stopped shooting, right? And I didn't shoot for like maybe, I don't know, a year of just like not shooting like constant work. I would have my camera, one film roll would last me maybe 3 months, you know, like it was like nothing like that. And I knew I just And that's just me just deep into my other work, right? And that's kind of how it happened. And I was letting that take over, and I forgot this is what got me here, and this is why I'm a designer now because of photography. So like you have to find that balance, and just literally just on weekends, let me take a stroll, let me plan something with some friends. I started shooting more for the brand, for the hundreds, or like for other brands. I started figuring out my rhythm of like, oh, there's a lot of friends around me that need help progressing visually, and I want to help them. These are friends of mine. Like, yo, let's get this going. You have this brand or you have this music you want to release, let me shoot the cover. Boom, we'll do that, and we can come up with these ideas. And I think since it's also plan far ahead, we can plan on weekends to meet up, we can plan late nights. Like, I think I just found my schedule that works,
Mm.
and I've been lucky enough that everyone works like with me as well. Like, I think everyone just likes working around me.
So like it sounds like based on what you're saying is that you've built this amazing workflow and style together with other people around there, both, inside, let's call it that 9 to 5 walls. But
Yeah.
then, you read the book about the history of the hundreds and it's all about the people first. And so it sounds like that's not just all fluff, it's actual real, like in the way that people, when you work there, it's very real. Like you can develop your own path inside these walls.
Yeah, that's very real. That's like not fluff at all. I think what Bobby has preached and built within the company and my 9 to 5. I mean, my job is communication, right? All I do is work with partners. That's my job entirely. Just literally learning how to work with other people, how to make both parties happy. We meet in the middle. We're both excited to do something and talk about something. And then I think I've carried that throughout my personal life, where you understand other people's perspectives, understand other people's visions, and you try to get them there. And how do you guys help each other out? And I think I've kind of just ran that throughout my entire life. And I think I've been like this before, to be honest, and before even joining the brand. And I think that's kind of why I've meshed so well with the company, and like doing this on my own, just understanding other people and just trying to help them get better. And I think if we're both on the way up, then it benefits everyone.
Yeah, that's amazing. Is there one thing that you specifically do when you start working with somebody new, or like whether it's on the brand side or on your personal endeavor? You said like sometimes I'll help friends out. Is there something that you look forward or look for in a project or a person in order to want to work with them, like as you manage and cultivate these collaborations?
Honesty and passion is two like starting points. Like, I think when someone is honest about themselves and what they want to do and where they want to take their passion, like very like vocal and very like visionary, like understanding where they want to be a year or two from now, and like how they move is very, I don't know, I'm influenced by that. I'm very like I see it, I'm just like, okay, this guy knows where he wants to go, let's get them there. And I think that's kind of how the planning starts. When I get to know someone, like even you, David, like we'll like ask some questions. Like you and I have worked lightly in the past, and I think just even understanding that process is like getting to know you and what are you doing and where the brand is going. And I think understanding that from the very beginning, whether it's me going to get some coffee with somebody and meeting somebody, or whether you can even see that honesty sometimes when you're out at night, and you can talk to someone and you pull them to the side, and all of a sudden you're just like getting a deep conversation, and you're just like, oh, I need to keep talking to you more. Like, oh, we understand each other. And or from like Zoom calls, like I've never met someone and we talk here for like an hour, and you're just like, oh, this person's great. Like you see it. It's just a good read, and it's just like the good just energy.
So on the flip side of that, I'm assuming you've worked with people that you haven't enjoyed working with, and have you ever been put in a position like that or forced to like just complete a project even though you didn't enjoy working with somebody?
Yeah.
You don't have to name names.
No names, but it's just part of the game. It's you guys lock in and don't see eye to eye on 100%, and you just gotta get through it. That's just kind of where it is. I think as long as there's a compromise between both partners and understanding of like, okay, this is what you really want. I don't really want that, but let's do this. And then if it's an agreement, then we move forward, and then shake hands and we keep it pushing. Like it's all no bad endings. It's just kind of just some are tougher than others.
Yeah, for sure. No, there's not every person's amazing to work with, but it sounds like you can read or you can kind of scope people out up front and then make those decisions and how to navigate further on. I wanted to talk specifically about one project or one trip that you had that really, when I saw it on your Instagram, I was like, oh shit, this is amazing. Was your trip to Wyoming. And I remember super vividly today, even right now, like the photographs you took of like the horses and like the people amongst like the streams and stuff like that. Like, what was that experience? Like, why were you there? And then like talk about that project. If it was a project, was it a passion thing? Like, I know nothing about it outside of like, I remember specifically like the horse photographs you took, and I'm like, this is amazing work.
Thank you. Um, that was shot in 2019 in May, right in the midst of the pandemic, like right when everything was locked down. It was hot. It was like the beginning of the summer. We were working on a collaboration with Puma out and for our second design capsule coming out, and we had to go shoot a lookbook pretty much. But I kind of more am coordinator of the whole shoot, at least for the brand, for the 100. So our lead photographer, Beth, that used to shoot for the brand, she was like, "Hey, I'm going to Yosemite, and I'm going to the mountains, and after that, I'm going to Montana. You should meet me out there, and we'll shoot it out there." And I was just like, "Okay, let's go." And so I gave her all the clothes, and then me and some other guys from the brand and the model flew out to Wyoming, to Montana, and then we met her. I rented a car. We drove down to Wyoming, hung out there for like 3 or 4 days. What you see, what I documented and shot, was pretty much what I was staring at while the photo shoot was happening over here.
Awesome.
So like it's more of a behind the scenes feel of what the shoot actually was happening. So we styled the product, we had the shoes ready, we rented a cabin deep in the mountains, and it was probably the most at peace I've felt in like those last few months. Uh, Obviously, because everything was just like everyone was freaking out. People were talking like, "Yo, why are you traveling or not? Don't travel." Like I'm over here like double mask with the gloves at the airport with the goggles. Like I'm over here just like I had a beanie on. Like I went to Home Depot and got like those, like those painter goggles. Like they look good, but like it's just like you got goggles on, like glasses. And so it was just something that was very like nerving traveling, and you're like on the flight and you're like, this is crazy. And then you get to Wyoming where there's like not a person for miles, and only I think when I had went, they had only one positive COVID person in the entire state.
Holy cow.
Like it was just like it was that new. Like they were living their lives, and I'm over here freaked out because LA is going, wild. And so getting there and being able to breathe and feel some type of like cool air, and then the horses that you see, we're just literally shooting in like a huge field, and then you turn around and then the horses just start running, and you're just like, oh wait, what? And then our photographer happened to have a carrot, and she's like, oh look, feed them carrots, come toward us, and they're just lined up just beautifully right in front of us.
Insane.
And yeah, and they were just there, and come to find out, they were actually part of a ranch where one of our photographers were staying, and it was at some huge design house out there. And I think these horses kind of just needed some attention that day, and they happened to give it to me.
That's super beautiful, and people definitely should find you and your posts and your work. I even think there's a blog on thehundreds.com about it too, if you wanted to read about it. So yeah, I think that's such a cool experience. It's kind of like they just randomly were like, oh shit, there's like a pack of
Mm-hmm.
horses, and they
Mm-hmm.
and pulling them closer. Yeah, it's really beautiful stuff. Do you have like a favorite, you know, is that like one of your favorite travel experiences? Because I actually scrolled through your Instagram before this. I did a tiny bit of research, and you've traveled the globe.
I,
You've been,
yeah,
seems like you've been pretty fortunate.
it's been fun. It's been fun traveling. Yeah, and again, because of work, like of what I do, right, for a living. So, man, a top travel for me maybe Tokyo. To be
Yeah,
honest, it's just kind of the way we did it. We had like a really good team with us. We threw a party, a hardcore show in Tokyo. So like, there's a lot of stories. We did an Asia tour before, so like I've gone through Asia a couple times. Um, Wyoming for sure is top three. Tokyo for sure. Um, and I think, I don't know, as much as I love New York, I went to Vancouver once, and that was beautiful. That
Yeah.
was really nice. That was really
Okay.
nice. Yeah.
What's your,
Um,
do you have like a favorite project, like let alone travel, right? Like traveling's amazing and inspirational and things like that. But you've seen like the gamut over the past decade of like working with collaborators or like brands or starting up things or working with your friends. Like, do you have like a favorite project that you've been able to work on?
um, I think a project that I've been able to work on is more of an internal project within the brand of creating a process and creating organization and a movement within the company of having an understanding with your entire team on how to move forward and having the same on this vision. And I think that's kind of I had one of my best friends. I've known him for like 15 years. He was like my right hand. He did marketing for the hundreds as well. So me and him got to run the brand in our perspective, along of course with Bobby and Ben's approval. But like this is kind of how we ran it, and we created, internalized this organization tool that we needed for the company. And I think that was one of my favorite projects to work on. Like, and that's like, it has nothing to do outward facing. This is just something that I kind of just wanted to understand more and figure out. And I think it helped me find my balance, like some things like that, right? It's kind of like it's just a good team. We have a good team right now.
That is
That's,
that was
yeah.
not the answer that I would have expected. That is it's not like, again, to your point, it's not consumer facing, it's nothing flashy. It's more of an internal like, hey, we figured out this system that works amazing for everybody, and so everybody can rise up and succeed. Like
Mhm.
that's super cool to hear.
Yeah. Sorry, everyone was probably expecting like, oh, when I designed Puma and they flew us out to Germany to design some shoes. Like, no, like that's really fun. I love doing that. But I think working with the people I work with every day and us grinding with me, and I think if we're all good, then we should be able to move forward.
You mentioned a little bit earlier in the episode of, when you talk to somebody, you like look for like their 1 or 2 year plan out and like kind of what their vision is. Do you think about that for yourself in terms of like what your vision is, what you want to accomplish, in the next 1, 2, 3, 7, 5, 15 years?
Um, I honestly don't think about it enough as much as I think I should.
Hmm.
I don't know why. I just think I mean, I see myself still designing, still shooting. I've been with the brand for 10 years. I'm turning 30 this year. Like, there's just so many things happening. But I think 5 years from now, I still see myself happy and doing what I love. I don't know where. I might still be in the same place I don't know. I'm not sure. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. I've had opportunities. Uh, you make decisions, they come and go. But I think we'll see in 5 years. Ask me again next year; it might be different.
No, 100%. I actually find that with the way as fast as the world's moving right now, it's the people who are creating a 5 year plan. I mean, there's no way that holds true in 5 years unless it's very generic, like you just said. Like I just hope I'm creating and working on stuff that I like to work on, because otherwise, if you set like a specific thing, like it's really going to be really difficult to hold true with, whether it's a pandemic or things changing or war or whatever it is. Like it's really difficult to build out a long-term plan like that, but rather focusing on the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's kind of how I've been working. We have a calendar, we have a 2 year, 3 year plan, but your day to day is what gets you there. I think that's kind of what you can't control.
Is there anything that you're like exploring in, and more specifically, like I don't know if you've been following like the NFT photography space, or is there any personal projects that you're going to be working on or cultivating in the near future that whether you can or can't talk about, or you're at least exploring?
I'm exploring the NFT space for sure. It's an understanding that I had to learn the past year. I think we started maybe last April is when we dove in. And again, this is mainly because of my job. And then I kind of apply everything that I'm learning there and seeing how I can also work it myself. NFT for photography, it's an interesting space. I get what artists are doing. I understand the collections. I understand the one of ones. Um, I just don't honestly don't. I don't know what if I would even jump into that space. I would want to build out a collection.
Mm.
And that's kind of how I see it, at least. I just haven't had or thought of the right idea yet to kind of just start, adding to that space. And I love what people are doing. I see a lot of my friends doing a lot of cool things in there. Um, I mean, even us, what we're doing with the brand at the hundreds, like I think we're doing something very forward. We're like one of the first pioneers of a streetwear brand to jump into that space and successfully do it, and lead it. And I think I've been lucky enough to learn that, next to being working with Bobby and Ben directly, that I think I know more than I even know. Like I forget, like, oh, I understand that actually. Yeah, I had this situation come up last week, or you just realize, you're like, oh wait, I actually do understand the space pretty well. Let me see how I can do this, and just taking it slow.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of people who I've spoken to have rushed into it, right? Or they've just like, as they're just like, oh, okay, like, even photographers, right? Like I have past work, I'm just going to put them online in a different format. It sounds like you're really taking a step back, trying to understand what's the best output of my work into a new format,
Hmm.
which is, it's kind of refreshing to hear that you're not just like, yeah, I'm going to, even those photos from 15 years ago of like, here are my childhood photos, I'm just making some NFTs.
Yeah, I see. Like, exactly. That's something that I just don't want to do. I'm sitting back. I'm playing the patient game. There's a lot of waves to this new space. It's a new space. It's a new space. 1 year is not long enough. There's next 6 months from now, it's gonna be a whole new thing. Next year is gonna be a whole new thing. Like, why rush it? Like, if this is gonna be here in the long run, like everyone's asking and promising, it's like Twitter. It's like Instagram. You realize how to learn it and you monetize it, and make it work for you.
How have you speak with a lot of understanding around patience? How have you learned to be so patient in your life and your career, and with that mindset? Because it's something that I think that everybody struggles with is being patient. I mean, they say it's a virtue, right? So how have you kind of built that up for yourself as a creative?
Man, I think patience started with, I honestly think it was embedded in me.
Yeah.
Even as a kid, I was always just like, I would listen when like my parents would be like, "Yo, sit down and wait for me." And I would just literally just sit there and wait. And I'm just like, "Oh, I should probably get up now." Like, no, she said wait. I'm just sit there and wait 2 more minutes. Like, even as a kid, I remember thinking about that. So like, I think that helped a huge just factor, just how I was raised.
Hmm.
Sports also was a very big thing for me. I played a lot of sports growing up, where I think that's part of a patience of understanding and growth. And like, it's not overnight. You have to work for it. So
Mhm.
I think that's kind of was also being embedded in me, in the way I think and the way I process things. From even to design work, like some people work very well, fast and rushed and no second thought. I like to have a million thoughts prior to then, and understanding what I really want to do and say, I guess. And I think that's kind of just, it's just work throughout. Even when I do like photo shoots, like I'm not like, yo, hurry up, run, we're losing light. Like, nah, like if I'm losing light right now, this is going to be part of the shoot. If I can't get him to come in here, I'm waiting for this guy to get correct. Like I'm just kind of just, you can't control everything. So I just learned to just be patient.
I really hope people are paying attention and listening. You have an unbelievable mindset towards your work and your creative. It's super rare to hear you speak about it in that type of format. You also, for those friends of the podcast watching on YouTube right now, you have some work behind you that I wanted to address or kind of ask about. Are these your original works, or is it like a different creative aspect of yours, or just uh,
Nah, so this one right here is an artist named Dave Kinsey. He's a painter. He came up, I think, with working with Shepard Fairey, I believe. He used to work for the brand for the hundreds, and he gave me this print on his way out when he worked for us.
that's amazing. It's
And
super
then
cool.
this one right here is done by a friend of mine named Eddie Viramontes, based out here in LA, Latino artist who created his own typography. So it says something sideways, and you have to understand his letters. It's almost, it's very street graffiti based, but I don't know. I love it. Support his work.
Yeah, that's super cool. I had to ask about them because I was like, these are really, really beautiful. Um,
Thank you.
where A couple more questions for you. Where can people find you, follow along your journey, on social platforms, Twitter, Instagram, a website if you have one? Where can people kind of check out your work?
Twitter and Instagram, David Rivera 4. Same thing on both. Very similar. Tweets, I mean, you hear my thoughts, and Instagram, you'll see what I'm going through, what I'm doing, or what I'm shooting. You'll see more of my photo work. I have a website by davidrivera.com. You can kind of see my work there. Just my travels, my dailies, live shoots, what I do, like live shows, portraits, and pretty much. That's kind of where I'm at.
Do you have a, I like to ask creators this, do you have like a strategy in terms of like how you share your work? Like, cause I feel like you actually don't post a lot, on Instagram primarily. But do you have like a strategy, or is it kind of like a gut feeling of like, hey, I'm going to share this because I think it's cool?
Um, I think it's depending how I'm feeling, to be honest. Sometimes the work I'll let, like if I'm doing a shoot for a brand, right, or a clothing company that I'm helping out, and we organize this whole thing, and we're doing a whole lookbook shoot. I'm shooting 8 models at once, and it's like a whole like full production. I kind of let them run it, and I kind of just echo it, really, and that's kind of how I run that. But if it's like a more of a bigger photo, a bigger project where like I'll shoot an album cover and I'm organizing with like 6 or 7 people the rollout of this, then that's kind of when I'll start posting or announcing, because it's differently, right? Some things are like once a month you're gonna get this from me, and then some things you're getting this from me every 6 months.
Mm.
So I don't post every single thing that I'm shooting, but I will promote it and echo it. It's just not necessarily on my feed. If that makes sense.
No, it makes complete sense. I find that in talking to a lot of people, it's the whole like notion of social is sometimes an internal struggle of like how much to share, like how much to, and it sounds like you're very like head down focused, and I don't give a shit what anybody else thinks. Like I'm going to share what I want to share.
Yeah, I think so. And it's just I don't know. It's just I like to be a little bit more specific on what I'm putting out there. I don't have to put out all my work. Like I said, I'm blessed enough to have the fortune of not promoting everything I do. Which is also, I don't know if that's the best thing nowadays, because everyone's a brand, everyone's a self brand, but this is kind of how I just do it. Like you'll see my work out there, and I won't post it and I won't speak about it, but it's being done. The work's being done. People are seeing it. People are liking it. So I think that makes me feel good, and to keep going, keep moving.
Totally. Is there, you just mentioned something very specific. Do you work on the idea of separating yourself as a creative versus your employer, as a, like in the work that you do there? Or do you just like, it just happens naturally and it, however it blends out, it blends out?
I think it's however it blends out. I'm not David Rivera, the photographer. Like I'm not branding myself out like that. I'm just me. And like I just happen to work here, and I happen to shoot, and I happen to have a good connection of people and a good circle around me. And no, I shoot. Like if you need something, I'm always there to help. That's kind of how I see. That's how I tell everybody. Like, yo, look, man, like hit me, whatever you need. I'm here to help you. Like let's work on something. Let's create something. If time allows it, then it'll happen. It's not like I'm over here like I am David, the photographer, from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. You know, and like I'm David from the hundreds from 9 to 5. Like, nah, man. Like I just move. Just this is how I do it.
That's an amazing mindset. I think that's a lot of people should take notes on that specifically. If you, last question for you, if you had one message to give to anybody, whether they're creative or not, or at any point in somebody's life, is there a piece of advice that you've even heard or received that's really helped you along your journey, or something that you've been thinking about recently that you would want to share with anybody or our audience?
Yeah. Learn to adapt. I feel like that's been coming up a lot lately in my conversations. Learning to adapt with the times and like where everything is going and understanding it, and where do you fit into that, and like how do you want to make changes, or how do you want to make better for yourself while the times are coming up. I feel like in the last 4 or 5 years, cryptocurrency has been in front of me forever, right? Like everyone's talking about it. How do you adapt to that? How do you personalize that for yourself, and how do you make that work? So I think adapt is a very big thing in my head right now. Adapt, and like I said earlier, just finding your patience, like finding your path, like that's kind of like what will get help you get there, I think.
That is awesome. Great advice. Definitely, we're in an adaptive society for sure. So I think that's awesome. David, thank you for being part of episode 58 of An Untold Narrative. This has been amazing. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.